Welcome back to Around the Track. So our next guest is someone that I had the pleasure of being a teammate to at Daytona just a few years ago, and I'm really excited to interview him today. Jordan Taylor, thanks for joining us. So Jordan, I mean, pretty well known in the sports car arena, won some big races, but I want to go back a little bit more. Let's go back to the beginning. You come from a family of racing. Your dad was a very successful racer himself. What was your first memory that you can think of when you wanted to be a race car driver?
I don't think it was a normal transition to driving. Obviously Ricky and I, we went to the races as we were kids. I remember being at Daytona when he won in 96 and 05. And in those years from, I'd say, 96 to 98, we were going to the track every weekend like a normal family would go to the baseball field or the football field. But for us, it was just going to see Dad work, basically. And, we'd bring the soccer ball and kick it around the paddock and, just have fun. And it was only when my dad retired from driving the first time in early 2000s we started go-karting.
The first time, I love that.
He
retired more than once.
Times.
You have to know your dad to understand that.
He still could have another comeback.
Yeah, he might. I've driven with him.
Yeah, it's true. So he retired and, he got us a go-kart for fun, and Ricky and I just shared a go-kart. So one weekend he would drive, one weekend I would drive just for fun, and, that it was just a hobby at that point. And once he could really commit to like spending the weekends with us, showing us, teaching us what it's like to drive, how to extract more of the go-kart, we kind of fell in love with it. And once we were kind of hooked, just like any other kid, my dad was kind of stuck in it. And, my mom never really cared too much, but my dad definitely didn't want us racing because he knew what that lifestyle was like. So once we were hooked in karting, that was the end of it.
I mean, it's such a family affair for you in racing. My stepdad got me into racing. And one of the things I found that was interesting moving forward throughout my career was our lives were always about racing. Our family was about racing. And I decided that one day I thought, let's have normal family interactions and conversations. And we tried that. It didn't work very well. I was just wondering with you and your family, I mean, do you guys just focus on racing, or do you ever get away from it and find this other common ground away from it?
Yeah, it's not easy. I think it is common ground. Like, it's in our family, it's in our blood. So the conversation, if we steer it one way, it always comes back to racing. But I think, we try to have some hobbies outside of it, whether it be on the lake or on the beach. But that turns into some sort of competition with racing. So I think it's good to have a passion for it. I think at least the whole family's into it. I think my mom's the only kind of outcast, but she's been with my dad for so long that she's used to it. But yeah, I think racing's pretty much everything for us.
So one of your first big moments of coming into racing on a high level, I think it was the 2008 Daytona 24 Hour.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? I mean, you've been there, you've seen your dad win, you've been go-karting, you've been racing some other things, and now here you are at the ultimate level.
It was a big step. I think I was 16 doing my first Rolex 24, so I had obviously very limited car experience, and I was getting into a Porsche GT3 car with my friend Mark and Gary, who were racing with me in Ron Zitza. And for me, I had never driven a GT car or something with probably more than 150 horsepower. So it was a big step. I'll never forget sitting in the car in the paddock and my dad leaning his head in, looking around, and there I am, a little 16-year-old, and I'm saying, "You're not ready for this." And obviously that didn't feel great, but it was almost a bit of a motivation to say, like, okay, I know it's a big step, but at the end of the day, it was a great experience because I was thrown in at the deep end, and either you're gonna, sink or swim. And I was learning racing professionals rather than racing guys on a similar level to me. So I was kind of forced to learn at their level and adapt to it. So I think it was good in the end to be thrown in at the deep end to kind of learn good characteristics, good habits from true professionals.
Well, I'd say it's worked out. I mean, now look at you Daytona 24-hour winner, 2017. Must have had some great teammates. You won the championship, the sports car championship that year. You've won Le Mans. I mean, you must be blown away with now seeing how this career has blossomed into.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, like, looking at the stats, but I think you have to be in the right car, in the right team, in the right situation, the right teammates to have it all go your way. I mean, we did Daytona, I think 4 years in a row, and we finished second every year, seconds behind. So on the lead lap, no mistakes on track. The team never made a mistake, but we never won it. So you could do it for 50 years, I think, and never win it. So you need everything to go just right, just your way to win it. And Le Mans was with Corvette Racing in 2015. That was kind of a Cinderella story because during practice, the other Corvette had a mechanical failure, and they actually didn't even enter the race. So we entered the race with one car, which is the first time in their history. So to win it with them was a big special event. And even now looking back, I don't think I respected how big that event was winning it, because for me it was just like exciting in the moment. But now when I watch Le Mans from the outside, because I haven't been the past years, just to realize what a huge event it was, I don't think I really took it in as much as I should have. But Daytona's been our family's event, our home race being 45 minutes away, and winning that with you in 17, I think we were all crying on the last lap
Yes,
because
we
we
were.
knew it was going to happen. But it's just a relief at the end of the day to get some wins. And I think Joseph Newgarden said before he won his second championship that he wants to win a second championship for validation. And I think winning these races is part validation, but most of it is just, I'd say a relief to get the first one, and then, thanking your guys and your team for everything, because they're the ones who really make it happen.
Well, then you got a second one this year.
Yeah, yeah.
There's your validation.
Yeah, no, it was very similar circumstances with the rain and some controversy at the end, but the same thing, just no one made mistakes. Everyone executed well, and we were in the right place at the right time.
One of my favorite experiences from 2017 is when we were preparing. And so we're preparing for the Daytona Rolex 24. I get the call from your dad, he's got this new Cadillac Delara coming, and I was excited. It's such a cool car.
Yeah.
I appreciated the call. I was ready. I was retired, ready to go.
Coming back from retirement.
Coming back from retirement, just like that.
Yeah.
I really got a sense talking to your dad just how much this race and this race car and this opportunity meant to him, because he felt like, listen, this is when we're going to get that win. You could just see it in his eyes, and the whole team felt it. And I felt it. So I had a lot of pressure. And so we talked about doing driver change practice and how quick we had to do it. So I come up to Indianapolis, and me, you, and your brother Max was there too, Max Angelelli, and we started doing these driver changes. And
all day.
All day. And we got it down. I mean, I was pretty impressed.
It was good.
But I showed you what the damage was.
Is everyone going to get to see that picture?
No. Those pictures are long gone. But you get bruised and banged up.
Big time. I've never seen someone as bruised as you. I'm not sure what you were hitting when you were getting it out of the car. But definitely.
I had a lot more area to try to fit into the small area. What I remember is that I saw the commitment from you, from your brother, from Max, from the whole team, from your dad, and I didn't want to be the weak link.
Yeah.
And so I put my body through basically
You did, yeah. You put your body on the
hell.
line. But that was what was cool for us, was like, you're Jeff Gordon, like you've won everything. And for us, we're like wanting to make you as comfortable as possible and make it easy for you, but you were the other way around. You wanted it to be tough, to learn everything the way it should be learned, and put yourself through a lot of pain to get it down right. And you spent 12 hours or whatever it was practicing driver changes, where like another guy maybe at your level would be like, oh, I'm Jeff Gordon, I'm just gonna do it how I want to. And I remember when we were at Charlotte doing the Roval, we went to set up the cones on the road course.
Right.
And I remember there's a dead bird on the track. Do you remember that?
No,
You had like your brand new white shoes. I had just met you, and I'm like, wow, this is Jeff Gordon. He's coming out to set up cones with me on the track. This is cool. And there's a dead bird on the track, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of gross. And you just kicked it right off the track with your brand new white shoes. I'm like, holy cow, this is awesome. I'm like, this is Jeff Gordon.
You didn't know I had a little farmer in me as well?
Yeah, no, I didn't know that. Now I know.
Let's talk about some of the other drivers. I mean, you've driven with a lot of different drivers, and so you have to adjust not only the seat but driving styles. But I think one thing that I find fascinating is that you, for many years, drove with your brother.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that like on the track as far as, I mean, you guys get along great, and I think you guys handle it well, but there's got to be some competition there, and there's got to be sort of a family rivalry there, I would imagine.
A little bit. I think obviously driving for my dad's team, obviously we want to win, because when we go home, it's awkward if we've lost. But since you moved to Team Penske, it's been like a nice transition. Obviously, he's going to Team Penske, one of the best teams.
You finally got rid of him. You're happy.
Finally, someone took him. But we raced each other actually in 2013 in the old Daytona prototypes. At that point, we hadn't either won much, like a couple races, a couple poles, kind of unproven. And that was the question going to that year, like how would we race each other? And our first race together was at COTA in Austin, Texas, and he raced unbelievably hard, like dangerously hard. And I'll never forget like watching the broadcast after, like everyone was talking about it, And I remember being in the car being like, what is he doing? Like, he's crazy, like how hard he's racing. And then, you know, fast forward to 2017, we're teammates, we win together, and now we feel like we've proven ourselves in our own right. So then 2018, he goes to Team Penske, and our first race against each other was Long Beach, and they're ahead of us, and we're catching them. They were just destroying rear tires. And I remember thinking like, holy cow, I'm gonna have to try pass them again, and this is gonna be horrible. Like,
I think I remember this pass.
yeah,
This
it was a
pretty
good battle.
spectacular
So like
pass.
I think I passed him once, and then he repassed me. But like usually, like if you're like a second off the pace, you're not gonna fight that hard because you know it's inevitable if there's an hour left. And he passed me back, and I'm like, man, like I'm gonna pass him again. Like I'm a lot faster. And I'm like, shoot, I'm gonna have to pass him. And then I remember I went super deep on the brakes into turn one, and he went deep, and like we were both locking rears going in. I'm like, it was like an awkward position, you know, like when you're just 25% in, you know he's going to turn. So I was trying to back out of it. He was trying to back out of it. After the race, he told me he was trying to back out of it the whole time, but he couldn't because he'd braked so late. And thankfully, I got through safely. He got through safely. But since then, it's been good because we know each other.
The one that was the most nervous in that situation was definitely Dad.
Yeah, because he knew he had to pay for it. I think the coolest thing is that we know each other so well, and we know each other, like how each other races. Like in traffic, because we talk about it on a daily basis. Like if we learn something, you know, we're the first one to share it with each other. So like when we're battling each other, we know basically what the other one's thinking, you know, how we're gonna use the GT car to kind of try to use them as a pick, how to use other prototypes. So I think it makes it more fun because I can trust him and I know kind of what to expect racing him.
Right. Jordan, thanks for joining us today. We've got more episodes with Jordan coming up, so make sure you follow Axalta Racing to know when the next one airs.